The West LA VA campus, that has been a big issue here in Brentwood and specifically physically where we are right now. The West LA Leasing Act of 2016, sponsored by Ted Lieu, restored the VA's authority to lease portions of the campus with the goal of benefiting veterans and their families. Recently, the Department of Veteran Affairs announced it intends to terminate a number of those leases while litigation concerning the campus is still ongoing. Many in the community believe that thoughtfully structured leases consistent with the intent of that law can both support veterans and provide services that benefit the surrounding neighborhood. How do you see Congress helping ensure that the VA's actions moving forward both fulfill the Leasing Act's purpose for veterans and recognize the practical needs of the surrounding community?
You know, this weekend I flew here from the dysfunctional epicenter of our still great nation, where all too often it's ideology over practicality. Now, I know that this is veterans' land, and yet and there are a few who would derive some sort of psychic joy out of seeing a ball field bulldozed just because it's veterans' land. But the practical problems that veterans face include homelessness, and it is absolutely obscene that the phrase homeless veteran is part of our discussion. So the issue is, how do we provide services, and most importantly, how do we provide housing? And bulldozing half of this school doesn't build a single house. We have the PACT Act, which will fund well over 800 units, and that makes a lot of sense. I know the president signed an executive order to build 6,000 units, and that will be implemented right after we conquer Greenland. There's no money for it, but Ted Lieu, and mostly Ted Lieu, did get $350 million to build 800 units. Now, if there was a shortage of land at a 388-acre facility, and the only place you could build housing was the ball field of this school, then I'd say, hey, it's veterans' land, you need it for housing, for veterans. People up here, they've driven around. There's a lot of vacant land. And when you're building homes for homeless veterans, it's not 4 units an acre. The most efficient way is to build 3-story apartment buildings, 4-story apartment buildings. Per unit, that's the cheapest way to go. So there is plenty of land. What we don't have enough of, unless we make a big profit in Greenland, is money to build the units. There are over 3,000 homeless veterans here in this county, and 800 units is not going to house them. So the first question is, how do you get the money to build the units? Voiding leases in which you're making rent so that you can have vacant land that you can't afford to build on is the kind of bizarre ideological thinking that makes absolutely no practical sense. So what we need to do, and I know the people, the headmaster of this school and others are going to be at the VA in about 10 days, is to convince the VA to do what the judge has invited them to do, and that is to sign a new lease. And that lease, Judge Carter provided would provide $5 million immediately for additional housing. I don't know why. And I know the people who run the VA locally would not turn their backs on that, and I'm hoping very much that the political appointees in Washington don't turn their back on that. In addition, you have services that are provided, some by UCLA, more by Brentwood School, and to wipe out the lease in order to have vacant land where there was once a ball field wipes out not only the millions of dollars of lease payments, but also $1.5 million of in-kind services that are provided to veterans every year. So I'm hoping that we can get some common sense. I don't take a position on how high the rent should be. I think it should be higher than what we saw last decade. But ultimately, we need the money to build the units, to house the veterans.
Just a brief follow-up. Have you spoken with the VA secretary about this?
I've-
This seems like something that they would be supportive of, getting veterans off the street.
It is, and I have talked to a number of people there, but not the VA secretary himself. And that it got ideological when Trump, for the first time, got in touch with his inner Marxist and decided that if he could just tear down a school that's associated with an upscale community, that somehow this was a great victory for the working class. Don't think so. And so he has injected an element of politics into this that certainly the local VA and some of the near top people that I've talked to in Washington realize is mildly insane.
Last question for you. You brought up insurance. So